Harbor Plan Update Committee at 1:05 on May 20th in the lovely trip. Present for board members, when I call your name, please make sure that we can hear you. Seth? Here. Steve? Here. Phil?
Here.
Peter?
Here.
Emily?
Here.
Dave?
Here.
Okay.
We got Samantha too, she joined. Samantha just joined.
You say,
No, not yet. I'm just doing board members. Samantha? No, she's not. Samantha? I see an S. Sam, can you hear us? She may still be signing in.
Here.
Okay, there she goes. And staff, Jeff,
here.
visitor, much appreciated. Sheila? Here. Allison? Here. Jack? I see Jack. Alan?
Yeah,
Here.
sorry.
Kim?
Here.
We had this the last time. we had it.
That's not the best.
No, it's not. I see Jesse.
Here.
Okay, and Sam, can you hear us? We couldn't hear you.
You're all, mostly people at the trailer are cutting in and out a little, but I'm getting most of it.
Okay. All right, and that seems to be it up there. All right. Welcome, so forth and so on. Approval of the agenda. Somebody want to make that motion? Peter made the motion. Anybody seconded?
Second.
Bill seconded. All those in favor? We'll go again. Seth?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of the minutes from 5/6/24.
We have no minutes because they weren't posted in time on YouTube for me to do them.
Okay. All right, we will go over that. Discuss issues and recommendations, boating, navigation, dredging. All right, Kim, this is you.
Yes, so actually Allison is going to be leading this, and I think that Alan's going to share his screen. So what we're going to do is hopefully finish up boating and navigation today. And then Shannon, who is leading the water quality section, is likely going to be joining us around 1:30 to be ready with water quality if we have time to get to it.
All right, before we get there, I know some of the yellow stuff that we changed vis-a-vis our conversations from the last meeting when you were here. Did you get a chance to look at this one?
I've been looking at it just now,
Okay.
but, yeah, in one of the guys that works with me is bringing my glasses, so be able to look at it even better then. But,
Okay. Do you want to just roughly go over the yellow quickly? So Sheila knows what it is you've changed since the last one that she looked at? Is that gonna work for everybody? Okay. Think you gotta go back to the first page.
One other just quick update I wanted to give while we're getting ready here is just that we're going to be talking with Jeff in a couple days about our progress and just thinking about this summer and having a public meeting. So just something to keep on our minds is that, we have a lot of recommendations and that, right now we're compiling all of this on our end and have been, sending sections for people to review. But just keep it in mind that, probably at the next meeting, I'm guessing we'll talk a little bit more about getting a public meeting on the calendar so that we can optimize with summer people there.
Well, it's probably gonna take one in July and one in August, Steve.
What are the topics of this summer's meetings going to be?
So it would be basically sharing a lot of the recommendations that we have developed. So we've taken all of the public input, the stakeholder input, all of that, and here are recommendations that we are, developing and asking for feedback on them.
So will that be in sort of a draft final form?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And obviously you guys will have a chance to look at all those recommendations prior to those meetings.
Okay. Objective 2, I guess, is the first page that I have in the new printout. Did you get the new printout? It doesn't look like it. There it is. Did you want to just read it? Sheila doesn't have her glasses.
I can read them,
Oh, you can read that one.
yeah.
All right, so Allison, did you want to take over this?
Sure. So are we starting at the very beginning again?
Yeah, just quickly.
Okay. So is this,
Yes.
so this is just going over the material that the committee has seen before. So looking over these to get any input from Sheila on the ones that we've already discussed. So the first one being related to the carrying capacity of the harbors. And I'll note that this section does not specifically address issues related to moorings. That might get added into this section, but that discussion will happen later at another time. And so this was really related to both, moorings, anchorage, use of the harbor overall.
Okay. Well, then perhaps Sheila can look at this because there's a lot of comments.
Mhm.
Like, some of us felt like the anchorage is expanded too far into the eelgrass. Eco-friendly moorings, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe this is something you're gonna want to spend some time looking at, because we can just start where we ended off. And then you can look at it after that.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, we test bedded a eco-friendly mooring with land council last year. And it seemed to work out really well, so we are looking at that, and we're constantly doing research for that. As far as the anchorage expanding, if anything, the anchorage is shrinking. There isn't much of an anchorage. And I do think that is a problem, because what happens is it's so small that they're in there and then they end up getting tangled up or dragging anchor or putting out very little scope, so then they end up dragging anchor and then they end up dragging over Hussey Shoal. So that's, initially I talked about maybe opening it up to in First Bend, and I know nobody likes that idea, but it's protected, they wouldn't drag as much, and it would give us more anchorage.
Is the anchorage shrinking because the mooring field is creeping out to
No,
it?
the mooring field has not increased.
So why is the anchorage shrinking?
I just don't know whether it's because of bigger boats that are in there or whatever, but also like, it just seems like it's smaller and smaller, and I just don't know whether it's so many boats are trying to come here and do that, but that would be my recommendation, would be to take a look at maybe First Bend, and I know nobody likes that, but
You're talking between 0.1 and 0.2.
yeah,
In the channel?
No, inside.
inside the bend.
So that's pretty shallow in there, isn't it?
It's pretty deep, you can get in there, you could anchor with.
Would you restrict the size of boats up that could anchor past there, past Bridge Point then?
Yeah,
Anchors, that's where most of us water ski.
Would probably be dependent on how good the habitat is. So the reason Tara's not here now is because they're doing the spring surveys of bottom.
yeah,
So it'd be good to maybe get the data from her. I think last year was the first year they started doing the spring surveys.
yeah,
And they also do the fall, they do both Mac and Nantucket Harbor. So you had the data, you could, if that was something that we were thinking we could do, then you could at least know from her the area that's, a no-no.
right.
Well, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's just one, and again, it's like, trying to think of everybody that uses the harbor, and I get that eelgrass is hugely important. I do, definitely don't wanna disturb anything like that, but, tourism is a thing for the island too, you know.
We're
so-
about having the bigger boats anchor up like, outside in the the expansion areas outside of the jetty.
Oh, yeah,
Like
we do.
80 foot, like
We-
the snow goose comes and
Yeah,
drops an anchor all summer long.
yeah,
Um,
but that's,
and
So
isn't there a restriction on the number of days that they're supposed to be on anchor?
yeah, but that's one that's gonna be a hard one to enforce, but we're putting those regulations through,
But,
saying nothing over.
but I'm
8
just
feet.
wondering, a boat that size, which is what, like 75 or 80 feet or something?
No, he's bigger than that.
So if they were anchoring outside in the overflow area, there'd be a lot more opening in the existing anchorage for 40 to 60 foot vessels.
Mhm.
It's just a thought.
The thing is, though, we make some room, park more people outside of the jetties,
More coming.
and then more come, and then we go, where are we gonna put it all?
Well, there's overflow anchorage areas on both the east and the west side of the jetty, so there's
Right,
a lot of room
right.
out there.
The big boats already do that.
Yeah.
But the problem is like, there's no launch service out there, there's no.
They'd have to have their own tenders.
They bring their own tenders in, and where are they gonna put them, and most of their tenders are over like 30 and 40 feet, and so that would just end up
Go to petrol landing.
Someday. Huh. Well, it seems to
Some
be,
decade, maybe.
yeah, it seems
Well,
to be
it's-
something we need to add in here as a
Yeah.
consideration.
just a consideration, that's all.
Yeah,
Can you all hear us up there? Cause we got a lawnmower out here.
Yep,
I think it's sound fine.
Can I ask a question? Would it be better just to say something like explore new anchorage options in general?
Yeah.
And then maybe even specifically call out for spend, but that way throughout the harbor, if there's other areas that we think could be good.
That's a
or
good idea.
equally
Yeah,
Recover.
I think we absolutely have to mention it in here.
I do too,
Okay,
because people have brought it to me. When I tell them that they have to go outside.
do you ever tell people that we're full?
Yeah.
What happens to those guys? They just don't come? Or they come in illegally?
Yeah, exactly. And so I end up chasing them around, and then we catch them here, and they'll drop something over by Hobart Ave or something right in the middle of the rental field, so.
Sorry, when the 2 summers in a row, is it that the New York Yacht Club comes and drops in Hushy Shoal? And
Yeah,
where,
that hasn't happened recently.
okay, so where did you, when that happened, where did you tell them to go?
The vineyard,
Okay.
yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
They haven't been there for years.
No, they did come last year, but they did not. Everybody had a mooring or a slip.
there are a lot more boats anchoring up now over, on the south side of the harbor, east of the East Pier now too, that deep channel.
And
right
that pest
there.
house channel, yeah.
Yeah. That didn't used to be like an anchorage area. Now that I see transients coming in there and anchoring up there.
I've never seen as many boats here as I did last summer.
Yeah, last summer.
I was just aghast. You couldn't see any water. It was just mass. the whole time. It was crazy. And I'm just like wondering where the hell are we putting these people?
Exactly.
Okay. No more comments on that first section, guys?
Yeah, I don't know whether it would be this section or not, but I think at some point we need to address what happens when there is a named storm coming,
Right.
and what do?
All in the harbor.
I mean, Karsten told me to go to New Bedford, well, they closed the doors there like a week ago.
Well, they put that storm thing out there.
Well, they
Yeah.
closed that like a week, and we're all scrambling.
I know a lot of people go from here over to Bass River.
Yeah.
And is there another one over, there's another one over there that people go over to on the Cape. Cause they're on that good
I mean,
side.
the last time we had a storm, which was about 2 years ago, was when they canceled the Opera House Cup. I mean, there was just nothing available. I had a friend in Sippick, Ann Harbor that said I could come up and, this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, but I take a lot of heat because I usually send people out too early, according to them. But I'm trying to give them options, that's why I do it.
Well, it's for their own safety. It's not
Exactly, it's
stupidity.
for
You
their
can't
boat.
legislate stupidity, but it's for their own safety.
Right.
And I think in that storm 2 years ago, Matt Anderson threw, I don't know, what, 15, 20 moorings in up in Fulton
That's
Harbor.
to be Ryanamo, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because that always was a hurricane hole when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
They take boats,
They did that last summer too. We had a couple
Yeah.
that we sent, that they put up there.
and they took them right out afterwards, so I mean, that was a good,
In just the east side, right?
just
Yeah,
he said,
east
west
side,
side's too
west
shallow.
side's too shallow.
I guess it's getting awful shallow just to get in there in general, you were saying, I think last time.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
So should part of this one be storm mitigation plan? So when boaters come in here, they know what the storm mitigation plan is and where to go and et cetera, et cetera. Should that be something we should be advocating?
It needs to be somewhere. I don't know whether this is the place.
Basically, more about what we keep talking about, which is education, which is, you know, just making them aware that Nantucket has limited resources in a storm situation. Plan, you know, they're plan accordingly.
Plan accordingly,
Really,
because it gets awfully damn rough between here and open water.
It's standard, it's standard policy now for most boat yards on the mainland, all up and down the coast now, that you sign up for a hurricane plan at the beginning of the season. You're on their list of haul outs, you know, if a hurricane's coming, and if you haven't signed up with them and registered with them, and a hurricane's coming, they're gonna say, look, you're not on our list, so we can't help you.
Well, that's one thing, but then we have all the transient ones. I mean, we all know how to get our boats out.
But I think my point is, you know, there are a lot of places that do make these plans early in the season, and they make their people aware of it.
Well, that'll be something, I'm surprised Dave's hand isn't up unless we can't see him, but that is something we should really advocate for in this plan, probably in this area, because this is boating.
I mean, Eric Finger is great. I mean, poor guy was working until midnight. I mean, but it was crazy. And, you know, and Nantucket Moorings at the beginning of the season makes you sign a form that says you'll leave.
Right.
Well, I think it's something we ought to sort of put in here somewhere.
Agreed.
And that's, again, you're right. Every time we keep coming back to education, education, education.
Right.
But if they don't know that they have to get out of here 2 days before a storm's coming, and they think, oh, I can race to the Cape, no.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if they are coming, then I'm sure. Like, Timmy, you know, when they come and do the rental thing, and it's probably somewhere in his language, in his whatever document they're signing, whether people read it or not.
It's in his
saying
lease, yeah.
That say if the storm's coming, you gotta go.
Get the hell out of Dodge.
They just don't, no one, you know, it's like getting the rental car form, who reads the rental car? form?
Right.
I mean, that no-name storm, we had boats all over hell,
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine.
all over hell. It was married to Mark Williams at that point. We know what most of the boats are.
Yeah.
Sitting on the grass in Children's Beach.
Yeah.
With no support, just thrown on the grass. Ridiculous.
Do any of the facilities on the island require similar, you know, lists, as you're saying that some of the mainland marinas do, in terms of a hurricane list
They,
of people they will assist or not?
you know, that does haul outs like that is Matticat Marine, and they don't require us to do that there. They do tell us what their storm haul rate and relaunch rate is, which is a higher dollar rate, but they don't make us sign up for that.
People here, even those of us who live here, tend to leave our,
Yeah.
leave our boats in to the very last minute, thinking it's gonna pass us by. Like
It often
99% of
does.
the storms
Right,
do.
yeah. Matticat Marina, you know, I think they basically just handle their customers first, and if you're not a regular customer,
Are you
you're there and you
saying-
call them, they'll be like, sorry, we don't have
And
room,
they're cutting down on the number of customers.
a little bit.
They're telling customers they're no longer a customer.
Why?
They were doing a little bit that last
Now,
year.
they're
I think,
doing, they're quite a bit.
But there was a little bit of a.
Because I talked to the
miscommunication.
lady, I talked to
He's
the
up
lady,
good.
I forget her name, and she said, you know, that
That was,
part of their business model.
that was an issue last year, but I think that they've changed a little
Why are
bit.
they doing it?
No, that changed a little bit.
Well, it was always a money,
It was kind of.
it was always a money drain out there from the very beginning when Manning and the rest of them started. It was a tax
Yeah,
shelter.
what they were doing last year was kind of a thing like what Don Allen did too, and they said they're not gonna work on, you know, 25-year-old two-stroke motors anymore. Even Yamahas, they're that old. It's just getting too hard to get parts, and it's too hard for them to have mechanics that are up to date on all the stuff.
Where's Chris?
What's that?
Chris Whitty would work on any
Chris Whitty
weird stuff.
Passed.
Yeah. All right, so that was that.
So it sounds like the recommendation is to develop a hurricane management plan, and also publicize that for,
Not
I wouldn't
hurricanes.
say hurricane, I would say
or a
storm,
storm plan.
or named storm.
We get very few hurricanes, and the 1991 thing was not named. It was the storm that had no name.
Well,
That won't ever happen again. Don't worry about
Of
that.
course, they say that, and it happens every year.
No, but they
People are naming stuff that's minor and non.
They
not even a big
name,
deal.
they name every storm right now because of the insurance industry.
They gotta
Because
call
they,
it something.
because, because if you look at your homeowner's insurance, it says if it's wind damage from a named storm, it's X, will cover X.
Even naming storms that are just off in the mid-Atlantic, not near any land in case at some point it does.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, most of us are like fluid.
So I think the language, my recommendation would be the language is, a named storm.
Okay, so develop a named storm mitigation plan. And that's for everything,
Generally, I
yeah.
mean. Took 3.5 hours to haul a boat out of Children's Beach during one of those. 2 years ago.
Well, that's the language in that Tucket Moorings.
And that was at 5:30 in the morning.
Name storm? Yeah, no, I remember doing this. I mean, I remember doing
They
this
finally had to
starting
get, they
at
finally
5 o'clock in the
get a
morning.
policeman down there because it was getting so.
Yeah, it was getting so bad. Everybody was lined up all the way down to the hotel
Yeah, down to the circle.
and then down to the circle. It was
And then someone
insanity.
will come around the corner from town and try and cut in. And
No, I remember that distinctly. All right, so that's that. The next one that we had, reassessed was the Nantucket Department of Land and Coastal Resources would assess the need to quantify the carrying capacity of Nantucket harbors. It was, that's sort of, aren't those two like sort of combined? Or is this a recommendation for objective?
This is the recommendation. Yep.
You got any comments? Are you on, page 2 or page 1?
I can be on page 1. I just was looking at page 2.
All right, go to page 2.
Are we gonna change the wording? Because it's not the Department of Marine and Coastal Resources anymore. It's natural resources,
Well, he's natural resource. What are you?
the harbor master.
Natural resources.
it's just Department of Natural Resources.
Okay,
We used to all be.
There is no, is
Yeah, it
there,
all
is there a
used to be
marine
sort of-
department at this point?
well, she needs to become the marine.
Yeah.
department.
We didn't get you to be the. marine
Right.
department
No,
yet.
that's the point.
So you
To
can take the
reestablish.
Marine Department,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't be Marine and Coastal Resources because it's
Two
two
separate,
separate.
All right, so the thing we talked about the last time is to reestablish the marine department,
right.
Yeah,
down there with you.
On board.
and that is a humongous part of this. All right, so the terminology has to be corrected. And that is in recommendation 2 and recommendation 5.
Probably throughout that section.
Yeah, probably all over the place.
Yeah, but I think throughout the plan, it's one of the things we're sure that,
So right now, Department of Natural Resources is the correct name because no changes have been implemented yet.
No,
I think honestly, this,
they are,
I think this would actually be the harbor master.
Yeah,
there's harbor master and Department of Natural Resources. Two different things, and that's
Well,
what they are right now.
No, it's Marine Department, right, Sheila?
No, she doesn't exist anymore. It's harbor master.
I mean, we call it the Marine Department though, but
But it's not established, reestablished with all of your duties. and
Right, the
everything
harbor
underneath it.
master
We're trying to
underneath the
get her
police
back to
department.
Marine Department.
yeah.
So that's reestablish the Marine Department.
isn't there still a separate budget for the Marine Department?
Under the police.
Police.
Yeah, the Police, but
Yeah,
it's,
that's
but
the
it is a
problem.
separate, I know, I'm from this.
It's a separate line item in in Article 8
Okay.
because of the salaries and everything else going on.
Yes.
But it needs to be the Marine Department again with all the stuff.
I
that
agree
went
with all
with it.
that, I'm just saying what, technically what it is.
All right, so the terminology has to be corrected there. Do you see anything else on that page, Sheila?
No,
Oh. And look at the comments on the right side.
Dave's got his hand up.
Dave, where is he? There he is. Dave,
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say much today, but I want you to remember that in the recommendations that were approved by SHAB unanimously to reestablish the Marine Department as a standalone entity. It's been presented to this committee, and I'm expecting it to be an action item moving forward. So
But we all agree with that.
we've talked about that ad nauseum.
Yep, and that's a big part of this whole thing, is that a lot of this is gonna go back to Sheila's department. And she can get the right number of people in the department. And everything that goes with reestablishing the Marine Department. Okay, anybody reading on this page?
I'll just add that that recommendation to reestablish the department comes in a different section, but we'll
Yeah,
be sure to make sure the terminology is uniform.
A standalone section for that.
Yeah, the tricky thing is that because that's part of the, well, I guess that's a question for the committee too. We are writing the names of the departments as they are now. Is that correct? Not as we anticipate they will be when that Marine Department is reestablished.
Right, so any place that there's a reference for the harbor master, it should be just the harbor master department currently, because
Right.
there isn't a Marine Department. And then, of course, natural resources is natural resources.
Yep.
I am on page 3 and have some issues. That is not my page 3 of what you sent out, Ken. To improve harbor safety is where it starts, and then you go over to recommendation 4 and 5 on this lighting issue. I thought we agreed to dispense with the lighting issue as the Concom deals with it. When it deals with the harbor wetlands, coastal dune. And the town has a lighting bylaw on its own, and I thought we agreed to take this stuff out of here.
Yep, we've made notes of those changes. We haven't actually, deleted anything at this time yet.
All right, because I have it over here, but I have over here on the right side is remove it. The things
Yeah.
that we should probably remove, not to confuse the issue.
Right. Yeah, I think we're just generally taking notes on the right and then we'll go back and update.
But that's where it gets confusing because it's yellow, which means that we've digested it.
Well, we know we've done that, and
Which
what
they should
she's
come
saying
out.
is that they're taking notes, they're gonna then go back with all their notes and then bring back a draft of the plan, so me personally, I think it would get confusing if we're making the changes as we go and,
All right,
probably easier for them to do it that way.
only because the stuff that we haven't talked about is in white, hasn't been yellowed out. All right. But there was a discussion about navigation lights. So something probably should be in here that deals with unnecessary navigational lights or confusing navigational lights, or people putting up their own navigational lights. Or something along on their docks and piers and stuff. There was some discussion about that. Do you remember where we ended up with that?
Well, I think navigational lights are by law, by
That's
code.
Coast Guard.
Right.
you know, and that's established. There's no optional navigational lights that I'm aware of. And then lights on docks and piers. If somebody has a light out on the end of their dock, I don't know, that might fall under the lighting bylaw at this point, but. I don't know who's gonna police a light on the dock, so I thought that's why we dropped all that stuff.
Well, my concern was, you see this all the time, of people running their boats at full speed and don't realize there's a dock there. Hitting the dock and everybody dies. You see that out in Florida all the time. So, but there were lights on it that idiots just were drinking or didn't pay attention to it. But we do have some harbor docks and piers. And I didn't know if that was something that should be lit. So people driving at night.
Yeah, they
Should
need
see
to be
them.
lit,
Yeah.
definitely.
Is that your requirement or anybody's requirement, or they should be?
I think it is a requirement. I'm pretty sure that it is. I just have to figure out where I know that from.
So we might want to leave a little comment in there that, to ensure that all docks and piers in the harbors are appropriately lit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Did you catch that, Allison?
Yes. Thank you. Yep. I know the committee had discussed that these lighting issues were really not under your purview, except to the degree that they impact navigation.
Yeah, safety navigations, that's why I want to sort of maybe a thing in there like that, I just, other than my father driving over, 0.1. The no-wake zone map to educate voters, that was back to the education component, yeah. Anything else on that page, Sheila? Or are you on the next page already?
No, I'm still on the page. I think the voting safety tips are coming out June 1st, and I definitely made one of the tips about the no wake zones. And we're definitely gonna start putting them out before this weekend on our social media. With where they start and all that.
Do you have a handout for people too, or just on online?
We're working on it.
Okay.
We are working.
Cool. Anything else on that page?
So,
All right, on to the next page, which we haven't really gone over as much, what I can tell. To increase the security of the harbors and to ensure smooth and continued operation. in the
Sorry,
event of a
Was there any
disaster.
comments? Sorry, well, the last recommendation, did Sheila have any comments about the dredging funding? Funding and permits? I know that's sort of a big catch-all.
yeah, we definitely need to get maintenance schedules going, and the funding is excellent. Yep, that's good.
So maintenance, devising a maintenance schedule,
Yeah,
okay. Okay. Well, this sort of harks back to what we were talking about with a named storm mitigation plan. Increase the security of the harbors and ensure smooth and continued operations in the event of a significant maritime disaster, storm, or accident. Well, I don't know how I feel about recommendation number 1. Anywhere but the jetties. Isn't it easier to read it when you're on the Zoom?
Well, when I do it on Zoom, I've got my computer, I got it on my computer screen, and then I'm zooming on my iPad.
That's why I printed out before I come.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah.
Zoom in.
So I think all the language we were talking about earlier would go under this
Yeah,
section, not
this
the
section.
other section.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk about non-storm emergencies at all. We didn't talk about mass casualty or the types of resources that the town probably should have. I don't know if anybody remembers the WPI presentation about the fire departments from maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, looking at response times. And how that most places on Nantucket response times are way over the limit for survivability. And one of the things that was mentioned is that if there are EMS or fire accidents on the harbor, some of the resources we've had available to us in the past, like fire boats and things like that, seem limited these days, and getting some of that capacity back online should maybe speak more to this, but I think, we do a great job on Nantucket on EMS at land-based emergencies. We practice, we have a lot of resources. And maybe it's outside my scope of knowledge, but it seems like water-based emergencies on a large scale aren't really practiced for, but.
Well, would have kept that
Yeah,
1846
I
fire.
disagree with
from-
you.
Yeah,
Okay, go
Wait.
ahead.
Big time. The Coast Guard and the Marine Department work like side by side, and on the water stuff, we have the lifeguards on staff, we have full-time staff that are EMT qualified. We do take Nantucket Fire with us when we need to go. We have plenty of boats. I just, we practice so we do training all the time.
Oh, this is your area of
Yeah,
expertise, so I'll
that's
defer to you.
just-
We've talked about this, at Nantucket Yacht Club. And, primarily during the racing on Saturdays. And, my wife, who was on, the Mashopi, the race committee, they pulled out the instruction sheet, which was on the boat. And it's getting reworked because the first thing is to call the front desk of the yacht club.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Up with that.
and so anyhow,
Let's
we
make
got
it right.
people to agree that didn't make a lot of sense. So anyhow, that is something, now, I don't know, I can't speak for Great Harbor, but I know that they're working up a protocol. I think it's sort of talking about getting, if there is an emergency on one of the boats, to get them to the beach at Grant Point. So that they could, they could meet an EMS vehicle.
Right, because that's least traffic, it's a floating dock, it has a wide gangway, and that's where the fire department likes to pick them up. So they bring them into the floating dock there, but Great Harbor Yacht Club, I thought you guys, but I guess not, on community sailing, they all have emergency action plans, what to do in case of an emergency. The other thing I do is I speak to Great Harbor Yacht Club and I speak to community sailing when they kick the season off and tell them what they need to be doing in case of an emergency, and we do it with the Coast Guard as well. And we're available to do training with whoever.
So that needs to be incorporated with Nantucket Yacht Club, and it sounds like you've talked to community sailing.
Yeah, I go to
Great.
community sailing.
Okay, so there needs to be, okay.
Yeah, my point isn't so much about what your office or what the Coast Guard is doing, it's more about having the
In
the
capability to fight a fire
capability.
from the water.
Well, we're in the process of, we're looking at a boat that has firefighting capabilities. On Tuesday, we're getting it surveyed,
Awesome, great,
so,
looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Doesn't one of your boats already have a fire cannon on it?
yeah, we have a bunch, we have portable pumps now. They
I
can
thought the
do that.
aluminum, did they have a fixed cannon on the front or?
Did.
Can I?
Dave?
Yeah, Sheila just said, she meets with all these people. They know to call the harbor master. We have protocols in place as to where to take people if they're injured. She has firefighting capability on her patrol boats and dewatering capability. They train for that. My pat answer for 30 years has been, if I have a house fire, I want the Nantucket Fire Department to respond. If I have a boat fire, I want the Coast Guard and the harbor master to respond. Most communities that have fire boats, they don't get exercised properly. They don't train on them properly. And when they need to use them, they don't have the personnel and they put the key in the ignition and it doesn't start, where the harbor master runs their boats daily and are trained and prepared for this. So I'm not trying to create or maintain a fiefdom for the harbor master, but they are best qualified and trained to coordinate with all these entities, which they do in the beginning of each season.
Well,
I
that
don't mean
takes-
to preach, but people need to remember that we have not been sitting on our hands for the last 30 years.
Well, that takes me back to creating the Marine Department.
Yeah.
Because that'll give you, and will force the town into it through the capital program committee, which I used to be on, to give you the resources and the equipment that is necessary. Now, as a former part of the fire department, we have pumps because we have people signed up on Pulpus Road and Tom Nevers for the ability to take the portable pump and put it in the pool to fight fires.
Right,
So there is a coordinated effort on land base when you're not next to a hydrant. You gotta keep bringing the tanker back to Milestone Road.
right.
Or now farther out, thank God, because they've got water all the way out to Gardner. But they,
Well, she has the entire Atlantic Ocean.
you have plan that we can just suck it right out of the
Ocean.
the ocean.
Yeah,
So you need to be able to have that capability and that apparatus, and it has to work, and you have to have staff in order to train the staff. This all comes back to establishing the Marine Department back the way it's supposed to.
right, because fighting a fire on land and fighting a fire at sea are entirely
different.
Oh, yeah.
apples and oranges. Because you'll put the fire out, but
Then what?
they'll
Just
sink
sink
the boat.
Just think about.
Because they wanna go in with 14,000 gallons and it's just not how you do it.
Yeah.
No.
And the most important thing again is we go out there first to get the people off. Cause lives, who cares about the property at that point? We go out, we get the lives, we pull the people off, we do that, and then secondary. We worry about putting the fire out or whatever we're doing, but people are the number one concern in that situation.
Especially if it's loose.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm not saying we have to make the Nantucket Fire Department do everything. I'm saying we need to make sure that the appropriate agencies have the appropriate resources, personnel that they do.
Okay, cool. Anything else on this page? There is one in here still necessary to include. Recommendation 1, all efforts should be made to maintain the haul out capacity on Nantucket at levels that will allow for the safe and timely removal of boats from the water in an emergency situation. And it says, I don't think this is completed. I think it's ongoing. Does anybody want to remove this statement?
No,
No. So we still have
That's
to
gonna be-
include it. It's an
it's gonna be-
ongoing problem that
Right,
we'll
and we-
never solve.
and we've also, addressed in another area the age-old question of exploring
Where?
to put another ramp or how to be able to move more vessels out of the harbor in a timely fashion.
Okay. Again, the terminology.
Whereas the next one, town should continue to investigate options.
I think there also needs to be some coordination with, the boat basin. I mean, they've been, my own personal situation, they've been very helpful. It's always been at the 11th hour when they call me up and say, oh, we found a spot for you. But I think there needs to be, part of this discussion needs to be with them too, because I mean, my experience was a couple of times when we've had hurricanes now going in, there were slips on either side of me and they were empty. So, I think they've done a great job trying to help, but I think they need to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, well, I talked to her, she's my first call when we're getting ready to kick people out and around. So I do talk to her, but I do understand what you're saying, but I tell you, they wanna be here, they wanna help.
No, they do,
Yeah.
and it's a balancing act, because, one of the things is the ones that they're holding a spot for some boat that they think is coming, for obvious reasons, doesn't come.
Right,
So I get what they're doing, but we just need to make sure they're part of our conversation.
exactly.
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
So does that need to be reflected in the recommendations anywhere, or is that just sort of the ongoing process that happens?
Well, somewhere in here, you've talked about working with the boatyards.
Yep.
In the yacht clubs. It should probably be in that, wherever you bring those up, you should bring up the boat basin.
Yeah, include Nantucket Boat Basin in
Yeah.
that section.
Good. And regarding the firefighting efforts, it sounds like the recommendation is related to making sure the appropriate agencies have, the resources needed for those
Yeah.
situations.
Part of the emergency action plan thing. And which one is that? Is that B? I'm on section B, which is issues and suggested solutions and recommendations.
Okay, okay. So that section B starts the new issues and new recommendations that were not from the prior plan.
This is from our open meetings, I think, right?
Yes, this is from feedback from the public meetings, from interviews with all of you, other folks we've talked to.
No, I have that we had finished talking, we were at as of April 22, we'd gone through number 4. So we don't need to talk about 1, 2, 3, and 4 anymore.
No, we-
Unless Sheila has information she'd like to add or share.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything in there looks good.
Sheila, do we have anything about people with jet skis? I mean, we know of all these terrible accidents.
We've asked some.
We
people.
read about
bylaws.
Yeah,
We
there's
did pass
bylaws,
something
they
a couple years
cannot
ago.
jet ski in the harbors. They can only be going clutch speed until they get out into Nantucket Sound.
You
They're
Yeah.
both Mattocket and Nantucket.
It's something like within 400 feet of land. I remember when we set this law up because there was a couple guys coming in trying to set up jet ski rental operations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the whole point was that they wouldn't be, if they wanted to do that, they were basically gonna have to put like a float outside of code 2.
Or they can't go any
Yeah.
higher.
Rental of jet skis is prohibited by the bylaw now.
Right, so I think the language was something like within 400 feet of land, which covers.
So we don't have people in the harbor zipping around.
Not
No.
legal.
no, I mean,
No,
They
they,
do.
they
They do,
try it, but
they
we
try.
get them.
Good.
Because everybody under the sun calls you complaining about it. And it, I mean, rightly so. But
Oh, yeah, I mean,
like, they don't last long, cause we get right out there, and, the green cop's really good about chasing them down
in
too,
Clambo,
yeah,
is Clambo still around? Or
no. He's a
No,
new guy.
Not Clambo.
Yeah.
You mean that position?
that position is still
Yes.
here.
Successor.
Yeah.
Clambo.
Yeah,
It's been about
I
4
don't see that boat out there.
he ties up over at the Coast Guard station, he does go out, but he rides the Coast Guard boat a lot. Or he'll go with
I've
us
seen
a
this
lot.
Sergeant Wright, he's a good guy.
Yeah,
And now that the Coast Guard
He
has
goes with
that,
JC
has
quite
a
a
small
bit.
boat, they're up harbor a lot. I saw them doing safety checks on boats up
Mhm.
harbor a lot last summer.
I didn't
Yeah,
see him.
he goes with JC a bit on shellfish inspection.
Yeah, he
too.
does,
He's out a lot more than people think.
he's out more than a lot of the previous guys.
Well, as long as he's a presence, people will
Yeah,
He is,
no,
will know.
yeah,
Don't be
Sneak up
stupid.
on you. That's correct.
Okay, anything else on that first page? Down to 4.
Yeah, I think this was around the time the committee was feeling that Sheila needed to be here for some of these discussions.
Yeah,
Maintaining ferry service is critical for island
Oh.
residents.
You laugh, buddy.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, was there further, sorry, was there
Number-
further discussion on number 4 needed with Sheila being here now?
I'll say,
let's go back to 4. Areas of concern, Nantucket Harbor, Mannequin Harbor, Hither Creek. Jetties Beach, all locations, especially in the summer months. Yeah, larger boats with bigger engines are swamping smaller power boats, sailboats, and kayaks. Ferries do not reliably follow the speed limits and no wake zones when leaving or entering the harbor. Good luck with that. Concern the large wakes caused by ferries is causing shoaling and destroying eelgrass beds along Horse Shed and Hulbert Avenue. Anybody got any comments there?
I think they're doing a pretty good job. They need to be reminded on the regular, but, I meet with them and tell them. And as soon as you say something to them, like I talk right to their operations guys, sometimes I go to their captain's meetings and explain the reason to them. And once you do that, they do really good for a while, and then they just need to be reminded.
Yeah.
But like I was on it a ton, and I was like recording it, like where they were slowing down and everything, just so.
And Sheila, that's for the ferries, you're saying?
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
ferry.
Are they supposed to slow down outside the jetties or what, halfway
No,
through?
there's
Buoys,
right
what
by
are
the,
like buoys?
right by the, cut.
Small
Oh,
boat.
right by the cut, yeah.
In the east jetty, so
Okay.
if they slow down there, then, it shouldn't cause that sanding problem over in the horse shed.
It's an issue during the winter time, with scalpers complaining regularly to Sheila and to
Yeah.
Shab about the ferries, thinking that there's
Nobody.
no one in the harbor and they
Yeah.
can power up before they get to the cut going out and blast past the cut
But they,
coming into the harbor before powering down. So we have a couple of times sent letters to the ferries and then coordinated with Sheila to call them.
they do respond to it and they get it. The other thing is too, is like, it's called a virtual no wake zone in the winter, but, I'm trying to find some type of an ice hull so that I can keep the buoy out there all the time, so that we're not, there's no room to guess. But the virtual no wake zone is, they know is at the cut. But I think putting an ice buoy out there just in case. Because that's the only reason I pull them, is because I don't want to lose them.
Yeah,
and
they
I
move.
Have had an ice.
Yeah.
Issue.
This might sound a little esoteric, but a lot of instances, the ferries, when they would cast off and get underway, they don't sound their signal that they're entering
Never heard of
they're
that.
entering the harbor. I've seen that a lot, and all of a sudden you look up and, oh my God, the guy's underway and he's coming down and you never heard him.
Okay, that's an easy reminder for him too,
I mean,
because
because I've seen that a lot of times.
Yeah,
That they
Yeah, there's
cast
supposed to have
off.
one prolonged blast.
and
going
goose
around
it and-
Grant Point, there's supposed to be one prolonged blast when they're leaving.
Well, when they leave the dock, they have to sound one
I
long
hear that
blast.
one, because that's the
Not
Knoxville,
Brant,
that's the
yeah.
Knoxville
Yeah.
whistle. At 5 o'clock, that's the
Ah, that's
Knoxville.
Well, no, we,
Yeah.
but,
I hear it in Surfside.
well, we do. There are a lot of, a lot of times, but a lot of times they don't. And it's usually the fast ferries, and they're the ones that all of a sudden are on top of you,
Yeah.
and you didn't even know they were underway.
All right, it's a good point, and it's definitely something that we can definitely talk.
And I'm not
about.
talking Brant Point, I'm talking about when they're leaving the dock.
Yeah, and well, both the fast ferries should be sounding, one prolonged and 3 short,
So,
telling you that they're backing out.
Oh, I never hear that.
I do it straight all the time.
Yeah,
you hear it, but you don't, there are times. when
not
you don't
every
hear it.
time, right? And so, but that's an easy conversation.
And
that
I
you
hear
can
the
have with them.
6:30 in the morning whistle.
Yeah, the prolonged.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
That's when
the
they, that's when they
Knoxville
like,
again.
that's when they like doing it.
That's the
They
Knoxville.
wake
again.
everyone up.
No, but
We're up early, you guys getting up early.
Well, the only one that ever registers to me is the Knoxville whistle, not the other boats. The Knoxville whistle.
Yeah, I mean, there are instances, when you're coming around Brant Point and you're coming into the wind to drop your sails, all of a sudden the guy's on top of you. And you didn't, you have no idea he's moving.
I think the question about the shoaling and the eelgrass beds, getting back to that, I mean, I know these are things that are been brought up by public comment, but I feel like this is pretty easy to answer empirically. I mean, out of all the research studies we do, it's pretty easy to do a dive survey in that area, or even just a marker study in that area to try to assess if that's happening or not. Maybe we should see if that could be a priority, and then if the ferries are just going to play ball no matter what, great, but if they're gonna listen for a couple months and then do it again, it's good to have some data there to say, you're actually causing real impact. This isn't just people saying, I don't like it, this is statistically proven.
So this is the comment would be assess the impact of.
Yeah, I mean, it's shoaling, it's pretty easy to track shoaling.
Right.
Just there's a break in the way that people serve that didn't used to be.
I'm over here telling the NRD to do more work, basically, but
Please
as
don't jump
compared to the rest of
without
the
skis.
complicated surveys they do, this is a pretty easy one.
All right, now one of these things that we had discussed this, there should be a speed limit all the way up the harbor. That was yours.
Well, I talked about for vessels over 30 feet, because there are some pretty big shallow draft boats that are doing 40 to 50 knots up harbor.
And it's not a straight line.
And there's kids up there on tubes, and it's kind of like Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack.
So part of
You
that.
should
was-
note, Emily has her hand up.
Emily,
Thanks. Yeah, just to add to the conversation, and this may kind of be already incorporated into the language here, but I'm just recalling hearing some direct comments from some members of the public about, and it's possible we put this in natural resources, but also impacts of more recreational boats probably traveling fast adjacent to salt marsh areas. Like I think specifically in and around Monomoy Creeks was raised to me, and the impact that that can have as far as the wakes on the salt marshes themselves around the edges over time. So I just wanted to throw that in the mix.
that should be in natural resource section.
It might be there. I just can't recall.
I don't remember seeing
One of
that.
those is a little bit of both.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that in the
Yeah.
natural resource section.
Yeah, I reviewed the natural resources and there's some things in there generally about limiting impacts, but if this is a boat specific impact, it should be in the
Voting,
boating area.
voting safety and
You can
navigation.
always list stuff multiple times.
Yeah, but there's overlap in some of these sections already. Because we talked about the creeks elsewhere too. All right.
So is
Everyone-
that, what is the recommendation related to that then?
I think it
Mama-
would just go along with similar, no wake zones and,
It already is a no wake zone over by the Monomoy Creeks, just
Yeah.
because it's part of the anchorage over there, but there's other places that are not, like up by Folger Marsh and things like that, which are not part of a no wake zone, so I don't know if recommendation is to explore creating new no wake zones near creeks.
Well, that's the next one here, expand no wake zone to start at the northern opening of the jetties to Nantucket Sound and not at Pram Point and the end of the jetties. I don't think that's accurate anyway.
There's no salt marsh outside of the Folger's Marsh, but it really,
Yeah.
But it rolls up in there,
yeah, it does.
yeah,
But
so I don't know.
speaking for someone who's kayaks a lot in Pocos Harbor,
Yeah.
they ignore that. A lot of people ignore those no wake zone buoys and they go blasting all the way to the anchorage at full throttle and then
Right.
throttle down.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know for a fact my father used to do that. And just full power until he hit the anchorage,
well,
all the way up.
it was a different day back then.
Yes, it was.
I mean, there was no slowdown until you hit Brant Point years ago.
I don't think it's realistic to say that the no wake zone should start at the entrance of the jetties.
Right, I'm saying this is not really reasonable.
No, not even a little bit, because that'll turn the 1 hour ferry to a 2 hour ferry.
Yeah, well, they're gonna turn into really long ferries if they enact that 10 knot zone. But,
Well, that's been in place for a long time and just not enforced.
no, I'm talking about the new right whale one.
I know, that's been in place for a long time,
Is that on today?
not enforced.
Apparently at the
Oh,
planning
vessels
board?
over 60.
Planning
Yeah.
commission?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's down before, did it?
Not,
I think a lot of these
They know
comments
they can't
were,
do that. It's impossible.
a lot of this stuff was just, people made comments in these open sessions.
Okay,
So I don't think we need to take
Yeah.
a lot of these
all right.
terribly
I
seriously.
would say never underestimate the federal government's decision power, but yeah, you think they won't do crazy stuff and who knows what they'll do, but I do think that like if this is gonna be a harbor plan that's going out, it's getting into number 5, so if there's more in 4, but
Just wanted to double check, so the committee feels that looking into expanding no wake zones in certain areas would be the recommendation. Are there particular areas you want to call out?
That are in addition to what we already have?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like we're talking about the idea of speed being a problem both for safety and navigation and for impact on natural resources. And it sounds like maybe enforcement is part of that issue, even though, there are lots of folks out there working on that. I guess the question is, do you want to look into expanding no wake zones? And if so, where? Or do you want just a general recommendation related to that?
Sheila, you got any ideas about that one?
Yeah, my biggest idea is just not including this opening of the jetties. But I mean, I think we have pretty significant no wake zones in both harbors.
Yeah.
Mattocket starts at Jackson's Point all the
Right.
way in through
All
Hidden
the way in.
Creek.
Yeah.
And the harbor starts at the opening in the jetties. I can throw another reminder buoy at Brant Point, just in case, and I can throw. But the whole inside of the harbor is no wake until you get past First Point, and
Right.
then they can pick up speed and.
I think it's more enforcement than, adding no wake zone.
You don't think that the larger vessels operating at those high speeds up harbor are creating an issue for the smaller vessels and
Not that I've noticed or heard, but I mean, if you're saying so, then definitely we should consider it. I
mean, it's just, I know it's, there's always a problem having enough resources to enforce things, but if there's no rule on the books to enforce, then there's no chance of it being enforced at all.
Well, then the question is how,
The Coast
what
Guard
are
can
we,
enforce it too, if they're doing safety checks and they see some guy in a 45-foot center console with 1,800 horsepower heading toward Walnut for a cocktail, 50 miles an hour, they can stop them.
So you're talking about these guys that have 4 or 6,
Yeah, and
engines
there's a
on them.
lot of those.
Not
boats.
necessarily.
there's a lot of
large.
twin engine big jobs out there,
There's
but
a lot of these boats out there.
you gotta be
But they're not
stupid to
particularly
do that.
large. They're
You
just-
can't go straight.
You can't.
You can't go straight up harbor anymore like we could when we were kids.
No.
You're going this way, then you're going this way, then you're going this way, then you're going this
Anyway, it
way.
was a thought because I've been up there, on plenty of Saturdays racing.
Okay, so what's your
racing.
recommendation? What would you like to make it?
I was saying that, making a reduced speed to like a slow, no wake for vessels over 30 feet operating in the channel going up our,
I don't know how she's gonna enforce that.
well, I mean, that's it. But if it's not, if you don't make a rule, then there's no chance of enforcing it at all. You can at least give someone a warning and say, hey, this is the rule up here.
But some of these guys are gonna have wake, even if they're even going slower because.
Well, no,
this-
there's standards, there's idle speed, no wake zones. There's slow speeds, minimum wake zones, and this is standard in the ICW all up and down the coast and things like that. So a slow minimum wake is like 10 to 11 knots, and you're throwing out a bit of a wake,
Yeah,
but you also have time to react if there's some idiot with a kid on a tube cutting in front of you, if you're going slow, than if you're going 50 miles an hour. And and alcohol's never involved in boating, so.
oh, of course not. Well, I don't know, Sheila, I'm throwing this back at you.
So
Yeah, I
it was-
mean,
it was,
like-
it was just an idea.
No,
had
I mean,
because I've seen more
It's
and more.
definitely doable.
It's
It's
not a bad
definitely,
idea.
no, it's not a bad idea, and it's definitely doable. If it's something you guys wanna do, then we can make it happen, but.
Well, then the recommendation should be, review speeds beyond 0.1 for
Yeah,
X,
you-
Y, and
you-
Z. I
you
mean,
can
craft
review it, Or
something.
you can make a recommendation for something specific. A vessel over a certain size needs to operate, at a slower speed. You could even make it that speed 20 miles an hour, because they do that in manatee zones down in Florida all the time. In the summertime, when the manatees aren't around, it's wide open throttle. In the wintertime, from like November 1st to March 30th, they'll say it's a 20-mile-an-hour zone. So
Okay.
you could make it a 20-mile-an-hour zone and not even and then they're good. How do you proceed? You don't have a radar gun, but some.
So I was just gonna ask you, do we have a water radar?
Well, a lot of these things aren't gonna get enforced, people speed over 55 and 55 zones all the time, but.
But can't you get a sense of how fast they're going by what the wake looks like?
Yeah,
Sure, see, Sheila has an eye for that,
Actually,
you know?
sometimes the faster you're going, the
So
smaller.
less wave,
smaller.
that's what I was saying, we're gonna pull them
Yeah.
back to 10 knots, you're gonna get big
Right.
wave.
Wait,
I was thinking more about avoiding a collision because you're going slower.
Agreed. But I don't think it's not gonna solve your wake problem, but it definitely, would be safe.
It's safe.
But the problem is without the radar gun, we're gonna get a sea lawyer out there saying,
Yeah.
how do you know that I was going more than 20 knots and whatever?
you
But
got to
something-
videotape it.
But if you did something like that, if we did have something on the books, then we could get them I wouldn't necessarily get them for too fast.
You get it
We
for
could-
reckless.
Yeah,
Yeah,
negligent
negligent
operation, and that carries a bigger fine with the state too. So if they are cruising it like 50, 60 knots, I haven't seen it, but if they are, then, that's definitely something that could be argued.
It's like driving down the road and it says thickly settled.
I mean, I think the whole point is that it gives you another tool to stop someone and say, hey, you're
You
doing
need to
something.
slow it down.
You're doing
right?
something unsafe. I mean,
You're being
yes,
reckless.
if it's
Mhm.
reckless.
Especially when there's a lot of day
you can go
people out
about-
there.
you can
It's
get about fines or
becoming an
whatever,
issue
but-
for two reasons, because the technology has gotten to the point in boats where these larger boats draw very little water because they're either jet drives or they're outboards, and bigger boats traditionally were just straight inboards, so they couldn't get into a lot of these waters. That's one of the issues. The other issue is just like everything else on this island, capacity. There's more of them.
Okay, so we'll craft something like that and then run it by you.
Sounds
Sure.
good.
Okay. Let's see. Maintaining ferry service, yeah. On the front message. What does number 6 mean?
don't see 6. Can you guys scroll up a little bit? So we can-
Did we talk about 5 or we're going to
Yeah.
6?
Well, I've got your new printout and it's number 6. What it says is more information is needed about the discharge amount, frequency and geographical area for ferries in Nantucket Sound between Nantucket and Hyannis.
What do they mean by discharge?
I think that's,
Well, because we're all,
There's
I mean, we're all in that whole I mean, everything from Nantucket to Hyannis is
Federal discharge zone.
no discharge.
there's a belief that runs around that the ferries discharge out in the middle of the sound.
That's all.
We hear it all the time.
I think anyone who's ever been on a ferry and watched after they get off, just can realize that's not true.
Yeah, I mean, we see
You
it.
can see it, yeah.
Doesn't Steve Authority's Eagle in Nantucket, at least the Eagle, I thought they had a onboard treatment system, so what comes out is not raw sewage. And do they
They can't even discharge that,
They
though. It's a
can't.
no discharge
Right,
at all.
right.
Yeah.
But don't they, when they tie up, if they're getting fueled, or is the tank big enough to make the whole day and then get pumped out?
No, they get pumped out, when they come in. Because I was talking to, Bob Malvis over here about it and. You know, he was giving me numbers of how many gallons,
Yeah,
um,
I mean, the Highline's really good anytime you get. up.
yeah, every time.
I think this is another random comment that was made in open meeting.
Yeah, every single time you get to.
So get rid of this,
I just don't think we.
get rid of it entirely.
I would say though, we should talk about the
Number
ferry.
5.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's like taking it for granted, you know, we need ferry service, why would we put this in to a plan? But the reality is this plan, it holds a lot of weight with the state and with the local government, and there are things that are threatening ferry service. There is this
No, it's got a thing on the
NOAA
books. isn't it?
speed restriction, there's
Yeah,
the reality that
Crewing issue.
the permitting processes for
That's a
For,
administrative problem.
dredging have gotten very difficult and expensive. There's crew shortages. There are yeah, a lot of aging of the fleet, you know, I don't know, some of these things have been undertaken, but we should absolutely put in recommendations here that support our ferry infrastructure because this plan holds a lot of weight for that. So we shouldn't just gloss over this and say, oh yeah, obviously it's critical. Even if it's critical, it means we should add recommendations to support it.
Okay.
well, if NOAA has their way, we can't have fast ferry service between what, October and May or something?
They can shut that up there.
Yeah,
as-
I mean,
maybe
that's-
even longer than that.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean,
it's been, that has been on the books for years. I was talking to a bunch of people in the Coast Guard about it. It's been on the books for years and it just hasn't been enforced. And it gets enforced and it goes into effect if a right whale is sighted.
There hasn't been a
that's-
right whale in the sound. And we've never in all these years hit a whale with any of these boats, fast or slow.
Mhm.
They're up north of the Cape, out of Truro side, east of the Cape and south of us, which is why everybody's screaming about that. Thanks, but right whales are very rare in this territory. And this is just an overreaction. But nothing, they don't usually hang out in Nantucket Sound.
Well, it's, you know, it's the government doing their best to.
Plus, they're not even seeing that one right whale came around through the Arctic and came down south towards Nova
Passage.
Scotia. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just saying we should
Yeah, I agree with that.
definitely
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah,
add
yeah.
recommendations
Yeah.
yeah, no, don't disagree.
yeah.
to be in there. And also, you know, I know in the coastal resilience section, we talked all about the need to deal with the steamship terminal and to consider alternative terminals, but
That's not with me.
I'm not getting into it today. I'm just saying, we put it in there, but there's also the maintenance side of it, you know, dredging the, yeah.
Protecting what we
channel,
have.
Protecting what we have and, you know, ensuring that this is a little bit off topic for the harbor, but ensuring that there's access to the terminals that exist. We need to have all that stuff in the plan.
Well, they're gonna have to, they've got a plan for the vineyard on this, sea level rise. There, I know they're talking about our side, but that's like 10 years away. Okay. Gonna have to deal with it. All right, so check out the
So-
next one.
So for
Yeah.
number 5, is there anything specific you all would like to see in the recommendation?
Dredging, rebuild the steamship authority to account for sea level rise. Maintaining that access. You want to get into the aging fleet, lack of crew.
I mean, I don't know if those are issues that we can necessarily fix, but we can just
Say these are
say
concerns.
these are concerns that, if you look at downtime of steamship over the past 5 to 10 years, it's been high. It's been really high
Yeah.
comparatively,
Been a
and
lot of mechanical issues
Yeah,
lately, and they
mechanical
said they
issues,
didn't
crew
have a
shortage.
crew.
all sorts of stuff.
What is that?
And so, and I think also, making sure that the island's advocating for itself in policy that might come up is just, we can talk about it generally, just making sure that we are
Maintain
being
vigilant.
proactive in terms of policy in this case.
And vigilant, a lot of stuff
Yeah.
happens over there in Woods Hole, that in Mashpee that we don't know about. That the vineyard apparently knows about.
Yeah, I mean, even there's been
Why isn't Matt telling us?
political
He fixes
I-
over there.
ideas over the years to like change the makeup of the steamship so that the government body is different than what it is now, and to give the off-island rate paying towns more say. I mean, there just needs to be a constant interaction between Nantucket and the state and federal government on these things to make sure that Nantucket unfriendly practices aren't getting put into place.
Unfortunately, it's not subsidized like every other steamship in the country.
Don't get me started about
Yeah,
that.
they think that they are in unto themselves. And that was the problem from the beginning.
I think it's also important to make sure that we have something in there in this number 5, that we ensure that, continued cooperation with the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee and the Steamship Authority, because, sea level rise will play a role in how we have access to our ferry terminals.
Yeah, they can jack the ferry terminal up all you want, but you can't drive up to it because the road's pretty old.
Well, Jesse is.
Not a big enough sand load.
Jesse's still here, but the acquisition or whatever happens to that property on the corner there, as you turn on the Steamboat Wharf,
Arno's property.
Yeah.
the process of getting better access built in there, if those buildings can go, then that's gonna help, but.
Yeah.
But the discussion should all include the Coastal Resilience Committee.
Okay.
Resilience Advisory Committee.
So this number 5 is gonna get really fleshed out. Who's up there?
Jesse,
That was me. Hi. I don't know how much detail, is appropriate to put in here, but I was just thinking, obviously that steamship wharf is gonna have to be updated to meet the needs of the current, like what's happening now, which I understand is unloading modulars and all of that is really, it wasn't built for that kind of stuff. And people have mentioned to me, like, what if there was a fire on steamship or on Strait Wharf? And can it accommodate like the High Line? Like, how adaptable? I guess my question is, and I'm sure this will be looked at, understanding that a second terminal is not easily built, like how adaptable can we make the existing terminal in this renovation to accommodate everything we know is happening there now, and potential emergency situations in the future.
Yeah, this is number 5's got to get a lot heavier here.
Yep.
We can take a whack at it and then we can fix it when we see it again. Okay. Then we got the maintenance and improvement of navigation aids to mark channels and shoals is needed to create safer navigation. Which is number 7. Right there. Yep. I don't know how I don't know how many more buoys we can put out.
Marking of shoals near the points is inadequate.
You don't know where those shoals are coming off of, too. We know,
Yeah.
but the normal person doesn't know how far that thing
Well,
goes
like
to
the old
Buckham.
time, like the old time used to say, if you're navigating in Connecticut and you see light brown, don't go toward it. You know, At some point, if you're operating out on the water, you have to have a little self-responsibility for.
It's pretty tough. If you don't know how far that
You
thing
can't-
comes
you
off a
can't- you-
2 and
you
off a
can't
3,
paint-
you don't
you
know where
Paint
you.
a stripe on the
doing this
water.
the whole time.
Take a pole off the side and.
Cause it's kind of.
Sheila,
No, my
Yes.
father threw me over the edge, made me
when I
pull
was-
it across.
when I was on the
Connecticut.
Shellfish Association, this was a few years ago, you came and asked for some financial assistance for the buoys up harbor.
Ice buoys, yeah.
Is that still something that the Shellfish Association does every year?
Well, I
help
bought the
you?
buoys, so I don't need
I'm
the
sorry?
mon- I bought the buoys, so we don't need the money anymore. We
Oh,
have
I thought it
Yeah.
was regular maintenance.
No.
It was to buy the buoys.
to buy them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
okay.
so we ended up buying a bunch, like especially from Connecticut, so that
Okay.
the golfers could get in and out. And then I have one like where Pulpus Harbor #2 is to get you in there, but Pulpus Harbor, like there's a buoy every 3 feet. It's crazy how many
Well, you
buoys
need
that I
it.
put it, we do need it, and I'm not saying that, but the Coast Guard is getting away from buoys and making it because everybody's got the GPSs and stuff like that, and if as long as they put their routes in and stuff, they shouldn't, but like it's saying here about marking the horse shed, boulders cut across the horse shed. Well, I mean, I don't know how they want me to mark that, like, cause I'm marking a navigable channel. Saying this is best water, a red and green buoy signify this is where the best water is. And if you stay within the channel, you don't come near those points.
Well, these are again, random comments that
Yeah.
were made at an open meeting,
Okay.
so I mean,
Because I just-
look at it, if we don't
Oh,
think
I
it
thought
really
these-
makes
you
sense.
guys are-
No, these,
Yeah.
so if it doesn't make sense, let's not waste time on it.
Okay, cause this doesn't make sense.
Okay,
We had 3 meetings last summer and then we had tables. where
And people just
would
threw
come
out
in
ideas.
And they'd
Yeah.
say, they'd say, I ran aground somewhere, can you put a marker?
You
I
might-
mean, we have a lot of buoys
You
that
have a
we
lot of
take
buoys.
care of.
Yeah.
We have a
The whole
ton.
Eel Point Channel is very well marked.
Eel
every
Point
year.
Channel and, going up to the head of the harbor. I take you as far as, get you around Pockama Point. I don't mark past that
Right.
because I thought it was mostly local knowledge up there. I mean, I guess we could bring them down a little bit further along there. We do have rock buoys up there, like, one's, right in front of Ozzy Small's house, is like called Ozzy's Rock. We have a rock buoy there.
so you put one on Whale Rock Place instead of a floating,
There used to be one on Whale
but it,
Rock.
it goes away, and then we end up with somebody putting a, a milk thing, a gallon milk thing, and they attach it to it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've almost hit that
Yeah.
thing.
Whale Rock.
Off of,
Off of
Cliffside
Dionis.
Beach, yeah.
It's up
Oh,
Diana.
yeah, we do put a rock buoy there.
Geocache.
And it disappears, and then the milk carton thing shows up. It's just like always, I never know what's gonna be there.
All right, well, let me know when it disappears, because we'll put another one out.
I kind of feel like there's marking is pretty adequate.
Is that white
Yeah.
buoy off of the West Jetty, is that Coast Guard or is that you?
That's the Coast Guard, that's a steel hull.
'Cause that's a critical.
Yeah, because people will cut it where they last see above water and they don't realize, no, it goes out another 30 feet
Yeah,
and you can't come across there.
right,
Yeah, that's a critical.
yeah, they do that one.
They're saying, that's one of the things they're saying here, is the lights on the end of both, but you've got a big thing on the end of the east jetties.
Well, the East Jetty, Jetty Light 3, it has a light on
It has
it,
a light on it.
screen.
I think they were more concerned about the west jetty because nobody really.
Well,
they
and a
just don't
lot of people
visualize
want
it.
us to light the cut,
Oh,
you know,
geez.
put a light on either
People
side of
through
the
there
cut.
all night, you're really an idiot.
Saying-
Thank you very much.
So I'm not encouraging that, so that's why I said. I'm
No,
gonna
we're
put a
not
light
encouraging
there.
people going through the cut at night. Are you kidding me?
Exactly,
And there's no water on the other side of the cut, so
no,
you run aground as soon as you go.
Yes, it's like,
Sheila said,
Jesus, people.
between the chart plotters now and the added buoys that we have, it's pretty. So much better than it was when, I was a little kid. I mean, you
Yeah.
had to know what the waters were.
yeah,
Yeah,
There was a certain amount of personal responsibility in navigating the waters.
But people are idiots.
But we don't mark Tuckernuck anymore because I'm not recommending anybody that doesn't know what they're doing to go in there.
No.
You can barely.
There's not a navigable channel.
Right.
No,
To our standards.
no, you have to do what my dad did, throw me out of the boat, and make me drag him across every one of those little things.
Right. And there's that.
Okay,
So, for number 7, on the right, is any of that information?
well, it's already done.
So do you want to keep any of that for a recommendation, or maintaining sort of existing what is there now? Sheila was talking about the idea of marking past Pocomo or not.
Maybe you
I
could
think
do-
it's very helpful past Buffalo Point.
So
maybe-
put some more buoys in there, we can.
I
Well,
think,
there's one red one just when you get around the point.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of on your own.
Yep,
yeah, so maybe a
that's
little
where I
better.
quit.
Right. I draw 5 feet. so-
Right, but where
It
you
may be a
navigating
little-
to up there, you know, it's all. it's
To the
all in-
bar at
Well, we
the
used to see it,
Toppers,
and
you know,
that's right.
come on.
Sheila, are you still, the buoys on either side of Pocomo Point to let the kite surfers know that they can't launch
Yep,
within a
says with
certain area?
the no fly.
Yeah,
No fly.
We have no fly
I know.
buoys.
I think we can, I think we can lose improved navigation aid marking at. the
I think
woodshed.
all of those things on the right-hand side for 7, I really don't think we need to.
Ensure navigation.
I do
aids
like
are
the
placed
Pocomo
properly,
Point,
and I think-
fifth
well,
point
they are.
one, about extending that a little bit further. So they have some reference there.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that one should stay in there.
Keep
I
the
think-
harbor marked year round.
Yeah, that's,
well, you get
Well,
millions of dollars. if
They're
you
never
did.
gonna stay where
I was
they
gonna
are.
say, but I
That's-
think we
They
can-
move, they'd be,
I think
and
you
they
can
would
lose
be,
that.
I think, yeah.
Yeah,
they would not be, reliable.
So to help Allison out here, can we lose, keep the harbor marked year round?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, can we lose improved navigation aid marking at the horse shed?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay. What else? Ensure navigation aids, well, that kind of goes without saying, if you're gonna.
Yeah.
If you're gonna put a navigational aid out.
You're not gonna put it in properly.
Yeah.
Right, you're not gonna put it.
somebody must have had an
I think they
issue.
can, I think they mark all the,
I think
Yeah.
we can
harbor
remove-
next year in April. Fools.
Can we remove ensure navigation aids are placed properly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can remove that too, Allison, thank you.
Thank you all. That's a great help.
Okay, number 8. Yacht club set up lessons and races and navigation channel creating unsafe conditions. You're
Well-
dealing with that, but you're in the yacht club.
Well,
Well, it's
it's Saturday afternoon, it is what it is,
It's a shared use area.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And there are rules of rights of way
Right.
in navigational channels. I mean, if you're restricted in your ability to maneuver and you're displaying the proper signals, then a sailing vessel racing has to give way. But, people don't know the rules of the road and generally speaking, they should be giving way to the sailboats most of the time up harbor because there aren't those situations, but
I understand the right-hand one though. Enforce use of channels for transit purposes only. Because people will do windsurfing,
well,
water skiing in the transit channels.
and
I know because my dad used to violate it.
Well,
And
we,
there-
we
and there-
race in the. we
and there are
race in
rules of the road that
There are rules of the
In fact,
road.
they use some of the buoys up there, so I mean,
communicating between the master and yacht clubs and like.
I think they could
establish
already
a
do that.
schedule and course for racing.
You know when they're having races and all this other
Yep.
crap.
Yep, they
You
let
already
you
do
know.
that.
Yeah, and again, that's another one that I'm not aware of any problems.
Yeah, I
It
don't-
just seems like they coexist. All right, I know when we're cruising up there, we just go right around them and
Yeah.
or wait 2
So that-
seconds for them
that
to
8
go
goes out.
by.
8 goes out.
yeah,
yeah, I think we can drop 8.
All right, number 9, understand whether and how coastal erosion structures in Nantucket Harbor contribute sediment to the harbor. How this compares to natural erosion, and how this is impacting navigation.
Is that
I'll
whether,
turn that over to you, Jeff.
is that whether it's supposed to be WEA?
So much for spell check.
Weather and coastal?
That's sediment study. It is almost
No, I-
done.
The weather is meant as part of a question, whether like, if it is or not.
Yeah. So does this need to stay in, anybody?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah, I think.
I would say that's about to be completed.
okay.
It'll be done before this plan is adopted, I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Or done enough.
Okay, so
Yeah, so that's out. Concern for the impact of boating on the natural environment, emissions, fuel spills, and hauling eelgrass sour from Warrington, da, 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 da. A need for a protection of sensitive areas from boating.
I mean, I think we have it, we have the,
I
like,
think
the
we
no
have it.
anchor zones,
Yeah.
and we have,
Sheila, I think the guys with the pump out boats are great. I guess my only question is, are the transit people who are coming through? Are they, when Nantucket Moorings checks them in, are they given anything,
yep,
handout or
They give-
anything
they give
about
it-
what the availability is?
yep. They're given dye tabs to put into their tanks. No, but we watch them put them in.
Oh, you do?
As soon- as
Oh,
soon
really?
as-
Oh, yeah.
On as many
Yeah.
boats as we can.
Oh, really?
If
Okay.
they let us on, we watch them drop them in.
Okay.
And, so we have that, and we do have, that it's free, and it's this, and it's that, and we're on the water from 7 to 7.
And here's the channel to call and all that.
And here's the
Oh,
channel,
okay,
or
okay,
call this phone number, like.
So we're
pump
making it
boats-
easy for
Yeah,
them.
pump boats is
Yeah.
one thing that we're,
They do a really good job at the
No, I
pump
think
outs, I
they
gotta
do.
tell you.
Yeah.
I think
My
some-
son did it for a long
Some
time.
of these are perpetuated myths
right.
Yeah.
that come
Yeah.
up.
And as far as when the Coast Guard does the boarding, or we do a boarding, or we do a boarding with them, the other thing that we check for is to make sure that the valve. To go overboard is like zip tied or tied off in a way that it would make it very difficult for somebody to turn the valve to pump over the side. So we check for that too, when we go on board. And the Coast Guard does it on every boarding that they have if the boat has a head.
It's kind of nebulous, the comments on the right, increased enforcement of boating activities that damage the natural environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah,
I think that I really don't think we need 10. I mean, we've addressed it in so many other areas.
Emily's got her hand up.
Emily,
Yeah, I think this has been addressed too, but just a question as far as just thinking about what else this could have been about. How has the marking of like Hussey Shoal, for example, been? Has that consistently been working pretty well as far as identifying it as a place for people not to anchor?
Yes,
There's a ton of.
Oh, yeah, they're all,
Yeah,
well, buoys all over the place.
yeah, talk
Great.
about. buoys.
Yeah, man.
Run right
Yeah,
around
that's
it.
12 buoys.
No,
Great.
I think eliminating some of these things, maybe we should keep language in there saying maintain what's going on, because this is part of the plan.
yeah,
Shouldn't it be part of the record?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything in 10, 11, 12 is already happening, honestly.
So do we eliminate it or just say?
I think we can
maintain
say-
efforts?
Maintain.
Maybe we can just
Okay.
combine them all into one and say
Yeah.
maintain enforcement and monitoring efforts that. You make sure that there's not damage to natural resources. That could be the whole
If you
thing.
really wanted to caveat it, I think, and before Sheila throws something, I mean, we can always put for any of these that are maintained. And always seek to, improve outreach and efficiency or something like that, that's a caveat, because I think
education again.
I think if we could find a way to pump out more and do it faster, do it better, I think we probably try to do it.
Now, as far as the comment about need more pump out facilities, what's the upshot on that?
I don't know where there's pump out at the boat basin, there's pump out at Great Harbor, there's pump out boats.
And pump out at the end of the town
I
pier.
don't know if there's a Mattocket, does Mattocket
I think
Mattocket
there's
does.
pump out, so I
I
think pretty much every land-based
Yeah, I don't think we,
and mobile.
And we now we have 2 boats that can do pump outs, and that have a portable pump that we can put on a 3rd boat.
Yeah.
Should we need
And
it.
you have pump out at the end of the town.
And we have
pier,
pump
too.
out at the end of the town.
So
pier.
if someone wants to be conscientious and do the pumping, there's plenty of
Yeah.
opportunity.
And they do, I mean, the amount that we pump every year is proof that it's working and
Yeah.
we do it.
Okay,
You're talking like tens
I
of
got
thousands.
another meeting at
Yeah,
2:45.
it's already,
Okay.
yeah.
we're
we
almost
should
done.
finish this up.
All right. We've already talked about dredging. Well, that's all dredging. Talk about the high cost of boat ownership limit, no, no. Can you confirm this survey comment? Oil-based pollution appears to be coming out of a stormwater pipe at the corner of Harbor near Land Bank's proposed new drop-off
That
dock.
must be petrol
Petrol
landing.
landing?
Petrol landing.
Called petrol landing for a reason.
That's the bird.
Jesse.
It's not the petrol with the O.
Jesse.
Uh,
Oh, well.
what to say? I think I've told you where it stands right now.
I think the easy answer to that is, I mean, there's a number of outfall pipes that connect to collection points within roadways and things where you pick up petroleum products off of the road, where you occasionally see that rainbow shimmer coming off of those. It's not, should it not happen? Be great, but I think there's infrastructure wise, a lot to do in the town. For
There's a lot of
stormwater.
old pipes
We have a
underneath
lot
those
of,
cobblestones.
oil boom capacity. There are, if there are leaks, right, we can get right to that right away and contain it.
I mean, Sheila's team drills on oil spill response.
I can
On the
show
regular.
you pictures of the one down on Straight Wharf last year and.
Or if anyone
Fire
remembers,
department
there
and
was the
harbor
one on
master
the Easy
was-
Street when
right
there was
on
the
it.
fuel leak.
That was for
Yeah.
like.
That was there for
All on it,
months,
so,
months.
yeah, every
I think we
one
even,
year.
didn't you guys change that one out like?
Easy Street Basin.
The Easy Street?
Yeah, we change it out all the time.
There's a lot of old pipes out there.
Oh, Well, and
yeah.
there are more that no one probably knows about, but show up from time to time too.
All right, well, that's
Okay,
this
we got
section.
through that.
So if you got, take a look at it again. If you got anything else to say about that, Sheila, we're
I'll let you know.
all over it.
Thank you very
Was
much.
there anything for 13 or 14?
36, we gotta go through the roll. Somebody make. a
Wait,
motion.
Sheila,
What?
quick question. Anything for 13 or 14? Did you guys want to remove those?
13 or 14? I don't have 13 or 14.
Those ones we just talked about.
Oh, that's all dredging.
Yeah.
I think you can remove both of those, Allison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's in-
That's boat ownership.
yeah.
Thank you.
Unless you want
Okay,
to
thanks,
just
Sheila.
make a statement,
Sure.
thanks Sheila, unless you want to make
For
a
having me.
statement that made dredging maintenance plan or something should be established. Because if if it fills in, we're.
Yeah, I think a maintenance dredging is a good idea. I think Shab's working on that.
Because I've been here over the 50 years, but I've been here when it filled in and it scraped.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, time to dredge, well, let's do it before it scrapes. Because I know pretty much how often this is gonna fill in because of all the activity coming through that channel.
Well, the sediment transport study is also creation of the dredging plan,
Yeah,
and it takes years to get the permits, so.
Yeah, so that's why you need a schedule. So
well, in
schedule
here, it also
later.
said that in here somewhere, because what it said is to get all these permits, get all this established. So it's not like, oh my God, now we gotta dredge. Make sure we're all got this up front, so we don't get to that point. It is in here too. Okay, somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Bill made a motion to adjourn,
Second.
and Peter seconded at 2:36. All those in favor? Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Bye.
Peter,
All right.
Phil,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Jesse,
Bye.
Dave,
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Everyone.